The ARP 4-voice electric piano. Just cleaned this up a bit. Isn't two knobs. Don't have any like it. I'll have to put something else on those, I guess. But standard splined. Somebody had to hardwire one of the contact arrays there. As you can see, the interconnects are these prone to cracking pieces of plastic, and I see some stress on some of them, but I don't see any breaks yet. I think they're all working, the ones that are left. Underneath you've got the key switch. They hit a felt piece under there. That's a slotted and adjustable in case they do what mine was doing, which is flying up too far, and some of these end ones were actually catching the contact spring on the end of the wood, and that ain't good. So I had to straighten some of them that had been pinned, and I hope they're back in spec where they'll all do the same velocity effect. If the spacing is too wide, obviously you change your velocity sensing.
Correction, there is no velocity on this unit. I didn't know that when I was making that video, so ignore that.
These have two boards that are, I think, the same, and they've got the what is it, 10430, yeah, AMI chip. Frog in my throat. And two top octave synthesizer chips, which are the M083, right? Or 083B1. And that's used in several things, as you'll see on my website. And it's called the keyer board. And obviously they have a detune, so they've got two different ranks at least that are two different clock sources for the TOSs that are controlled by the A440 center tune or sharp flat, and the detune button there for the other rank that can be offset from it. And I think they're tuned down there on the board for the center tuning, and power supply and oscillators are actually down on that board. Excuse me. And so we've got obviously an arrangement of divisions that are high and low. This is the lower footages on this side and the higher footages on that side, to create more divisions so they can tone filter out more mixtures with these capacitor, resistor, diode networks here, and create the elaborate combinations to make 4 different voicings. It's called a 4-voice, but it's actually fully polyphonic. Obviously, it's got divide down technology, so all the notes will sound at once, but it has 4 different presets, and if you ever need a switch for those, I've got the exact thing. I got several of them here somewhere. Where are they? Yeah. Looks like that. And looks like the identical ones I happened to get some of a while back, and I didn't know what they fit, but that appears to be it. Okay, so I'll pop this together, and we can, well, first I guess I'll tell you that down there is where the signals all combine from these things. You got test points for various mixtures there coming in on those op amps on that board, and a lot of test points. And I've got the schematic that has the test points, and that's about it, from a guy that was on eBay that nicely sent that for me. Anyway, I've got just the diagram of layout and the other layout, and then I've got the schematic of, you can see it, it's really kind of smudgy. It took a lot of work to get it laid out to where it meant anything. That stuff does that to me lately. Hangs on. And then this part, which has the volume and EQ and stuff, that's the front stuff. Maybe you can see that one. Anyway, vibrato circuit and the stuff that's up front here. And so, yeah, that the treble wound up actually being high ESR capacitors. As you can see, I changed that one and I can't remember which other ones. I've got several here that I replaced, and a couple, well, at least one over there, that were measuring out of spec, and several on that board. Whatever I replaced on that board fixed the problem. I had a distorted half-wave output. I still don't understand why it fixed it, because it comes to a 4007 chip, which is a MOSFET complementary chip, has a few pairs of MOSFETs there, and it's biased from the power supply. It runs direct to the power supply, so there's nothing that I fixed just right off the rectifiers and the first capacitors, which were fine, and nothing I changed that could have affected that voltage. It was like 17 volts. In the diagram it looked like it said 4 volts, and so I had to pull that out and trace, and I'm like, oh no, it just goes there. But it goes through this second interconnect down here, the one that's underneath, and pin 6 goes all the way back to that connector there, and then that little wire right there back to the bridge rectifier. And so that's just a power up mute function basically, and it was on the other side of that though that the signal got, I had a noise, a high frequency noise, and a half wave signal going into the going out of that op amp, and there's nothing wrong with the op amp, so all the rest of them had clean outputs. So I'm a bit mystified as to what exactly fixed it, but when I replaced those caps it came out clean. So I'll put it back together here and let you hear what it sounds like. Now I'll show you inside the front while I got it open here. The little capacitor right there, it's got to be replaced. That's 73 ohm measuring on the ESR meter, which is way out of spec. If you ever need those switches, I've got them. I think I've got that identical thing. Well, those switch caps are off of the ones that I have, so that's what they'll look like. And so yeah, there's just a 3086 up there and a few op amps. Yeah, I was having some hum when I would push off the switch for the sustain. It would go away until I hang a probe on it, and then it would come back with the ground. So I'm like, oh, there must be a bad ground loop somewhere. And measured about 30 ohms from the back through this obviously good connection through here to the panel. It has to go, it grounds onto that lug right there, and so it has to make a contact with the panel that way. So if you get a lot of grand cipher noise, that might be the source of it. I think that's going to fix it. Previously I had added a cap there, see that one, and thought that might help my situation where it wouldn't tune. That the you get almost into tune and that TOS chip would go jittery, and it seemed it was just, I didn't see it on the signal coming in initially, and then I went, well, it was kind of a fuzzy looking signal all the way around, and I thought, well, let's just back it off to where it's good, sounds good, and then trace back and see what happens. And well, sure enough, anywhere I touch, it would set off a bad jittering of that oscillator coming in there, the clock. And so I traced back to where it comes from, which is this chip. Like I just updated my web page, this chip Z12 here, 4069, is a new one now, and the old one measured okay, but it was causing the issue. I would get, it goes through several these are inverters, and it goes through several stages there to invert to act as a buffer, and goes through a couple on that one, then it goes through another one on this one up here. But anywhere I would touch that with a probe on that side, it would set it off. But the other side was fine. The other TOS I could probe anywhere I wanted, on times 10 or not. And so the replacing of that chip fixed the issue, and it also made it so it detunes. I couldn't hear any detune before, so anyway, there were signals coming out that looked all normal on that chip when it was tuned low, but then it would just go crazy when you got it 50 cents within tune or so, and it would just go kooky. So yeah, that it all seems to play good now. Demo it here in a little bit. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to set the contacts up. I haven't heard any word back from the guy that owns one. I wanted to know if, like I say, if it plays more like an organ or like a keyboard kind of sound. You can do either. Anything else we should say here? But anyway, look at my web page on the updated. I'm adding a 4-voice, 16-voice page for the Synth Universal Resource pages on sounddoctrine.com. And so check that out if you ever run into one of these and need help. And so I've got the schematics marked up a bit with a few notes, and yeah, I made notes on the back as to where the whole path goes for these things I was just checking out. So I added that to the web page, so you've got that if you need it. And yeah, I guess that's it. Well, the ARP 4-voice is all ready to play here, I think. It's got one little issue that I wonder. Seems awful quiet there. On that one, not so much on that one, or that one. Inner preset. It's playing on the piano and the harpsichord, I think, but the electric pianos are kind of weak right up in there. Without the pedal, I've decided to set it up like non-organ, so you can after touch it into an organ. Got a train going. Let's resume this after the train goes by, huh? Switched amps to a solid state KV3 here. My little tube amp. There's the piano, dim up top on that preset. Sounds familiar. Live green. Yeah, I like that sound quite a bit. The harpsichord is pretty nice. without the pedal. So yeah, quite a bit of flexible play work you can do. A simple instrument with 4 presets that weigh 67 pounds. So that's what per preset? 17 something pounds per preset, I guess you could look at it as. But an elaborate amount of circuitry in there for making those sounds all analog complexity. And you could franken-synth one of these, do some real interesting stuff. Oh, another train, man, running like crazy right now. Anyway, that's the quick demo of the ARP 4-voice sounds. Really cool. It's time to train our senses. Anyway, really nice shape. Didn't know we were ever going to get this thing fixed, and then somebody wanted a chip, and I thought, I'm almost out of the others, I better check and see if it needs to come from this thing to be scrapped or what. And I decided, well, it's got a lot of good ones. There's just not much up about it, so here's the first video on YouTube about the ARP 4-voice. See, I'll take it around and show the back side of it. What the plug-in part looks like. It's your sustain pedal, which is the main feature. Unless you make it an organ. It's very hard to play it without a sustain pedal. We got the original ARP sustain pedal even there. Alright, cool.